Well, hello everyone. We have right here talk about for ticket moving forward right here, and you see right here talking about a lot of these words right here, and like talking about whenever it comes to understanding about interesting topics though. But one thing that I did want to mention right here was talking about speaking up and then other things for what you'll get your readers' attention, right? But a lot of times, every time we do think about that and 102 that if you were to actually think about that is to where that yeah, that you're using this right here, you're using these two pages right here plus the page right here on the top right here. So if you have right here is a front cover right here to like for like a cover page, right? But then you got the two pages right there on the inside. So if this right here was a book right here, so half the time it sure seems that way that whenever you're going to be working on something and at 102 that based on from that meeting, right? But a lot of times it's like that yeah, what you really want to talk about, tell everybody here was actually about something about that you graduated and so like everybody else it sure seems that way. It's like if you're going to be working on something and the first thing that you're going to probably be telling everybody, I'm like, oh yeah, if it's a speaker or if it's a maybe if it's the manager of a company that you recently graduated or you recently got married or promoted for a job or something like that, and you would go ahead and show them the documents and tell them a story. And with one of those stories, of course, is going to include something as to where that yeah that you're talking about for special attention right here. So every time you do think about that in 102, that yeah, that whenever you do talk to people though, and a lot of times it's like the first thing that they're wondering is to what exactly are you thinking about, and yeah, if you notice something and see something, then why don't you speak up about it? So it's like a lot of times, every time you do think about that in 102, that yeah, that you know, every anything that you're going to be thinking about for sure, anything that you think about that maybe not everybody's really going to understand what exactly is it that you're talking about, right? What exactly is it? But still, well, on the other hand, it sure seems that way that every time we do speak about looking at documents and reading papers, though, and a lot of times it sure seems that way that every time you do think about that and want to know too that yeah, well, what's the first thing that really comes to your mind whenever you do read any source of newspapers, articles, or anything like that? So it's like, yeah, a lot of times it's like it's all about turning away. So if you actually look away from the paper, that what exactly is it that you're thinking about? And so I could probably say on here that every time I turn and look away from the paper, though, that what exactly is it that your mind is kind of telling you? It's like you talk about for anything special. Anything special means for a brighter understanding. So it's like, yeah, so every time we think about that, we want to know too that for a brighter understanding. So if I were to actually write right here, like, yeah, for a brighter understanding, and so like, let's say, yeah, whenever you're typing, and half the time, if you want to maybe put a comma right there, brighter understanding, but then also about the feedback. So talk about right here for feedback, right? And feedback and feedback, and also maybe if it's a interaction, I'm like, yeah, anything else, but still, that what's one thing that we can maybe think about whenever it comes to whenever we do read though, is talk about for true stories, that make them very interesting to where you show more interest in listening. So every time we think about that and thinking as to where, okay, yeah, that for listening, right? And a lot of times it sure seems that way, that most of the time with a lot of your readers, so like I say, is to where, well, really, that if they don't quite understand something for sure, but unless if you include any pictures or anything, but still, the way we think about that though, and 102 that yeah, you start working on something and talking about something, but then when we speak about right here, or talk about for graduation right here, talk about for whenever you do once you do graduate, then you would go ahead and yeah, whenever you do graduate, that you would be eligible for this, and then so yeah, so a lot of stuff, and I know a lot what I'm probably talking about. It's like yeah, if you're going to be talking to a company or talking to your insurance or any special offers or anything like that. But a lot of times it sure seems that way. That every time I think about that, it's like, yeah, does that mean that these companies are going easier on their customers and their clients, and talk about for special attention right here? So every time you do think about that in 102, that yeah, that every time if you're going to be talking about something, and a lot of times it sure seems that way. Why does the job seem to be a lot easier this time? Just because that yeah, well, really, if we have all the documents that we need to see, and to me though, that reminds me a lot of the insurance companies, especially. But like anybody say that, yeah, if you were to talk to your counselor or the president about that, and 102 that yeah, that any jobs that you're going to be doing, that 102 that yeah, jobs that you're going to be working on, if you're going to be working on something in 102, that yeah, that whenever you do first start working a job though, that you kind of you think about an agenda to where all these tasks that need to be done and all that, but still that so if you were to write graduated right here, and let's just say if I were to click on it, and maybe I'm like, yeah, improve the writing right there. So I talk about for graduate. So let's just say if you are a young college student attending a college, right? And let's just say that a lot of paperwork that you really had to look over and sign or anything else, all the other responsibilities that you had they had to do during the time, and let's just say that if the schools or the education, this time like yeah, the offices may have told you that in order to be able to earn your certificate, you had to earn so many credits on your degree program. But then also it all depends, right? And so this could have been maybe the first thing that you were told whenever you were first having that conversation with a counselor or somebody there, and say is to where that really all depends, but still that. But at the time, you're 102 that you're talking about for a President's State of the Union address, but you're 102 that yeah, graduation, as we know that the graduation, yeah, graduation seems to be just beginning, right? It's not really about the fact about that whenever you do graduate, that yeah, just keep in mind over the fact that whenever you do graduate, that yeah, that there are some things that you don't have to worry about, and there are some things that you still have to take care of, but still, but I look at this right here, graduated. Why do we want to look at graduated as another way of, how do you want to call it, as to where like a verb, like any sort of action pronoun verb, to where that we've heard that before, to where a noun, person, place, or thing, but at the same time you're always 102 that why is it that maybe graduated. So if you were to actually use the word graduated right here, and maybe stamp it onto a document, and half the time it sure seems that way, that you want to use it as like a medal, right? You want to use it like like an award, like a reward, to where that whenever you do complete the process, whenever you do complete that program and tell the story, right, then maybe everybody else is going to be giving you that's what's called special treatment, all that. But still, so if you would actually use this word graduated right here on this paper right here, and let's just say that this right here was supposed to be an example right here of like a newspaper design right here, to where they're trying to explain the story right here. And so it's like, yeah, it's kind of hard to read, and I tell everybody too that yeah, It is. It's hard to read that. It's hard to read all that. But if this right here was supposed to be like a magazine or some sort, but if we're talking about for 2 pages right here, 2 pages, and your ticket moving forward right here. So let's just say that this right here is supposed to be 2 pages, and maybe not everybody's really going to understand what all of this is for right here, and that is why it sure seems that way. That every time you look at a PDF file document, that there's going to have it. They're going to have it to where that it's going to be stamped. Yeah, it's going to be stamped to where that you can go ahead and stamp it. Graduated, and so half the time it seems like have like a little logo design of graduated right here or something like that. And I really would like to know too that for a lot of seniors now that you're graduating in May, that they're going to have it to where that there is going to be like a little stamp icon that they're going to place on that document, and let's just say if it's going to be placed sideways. So like let's just say if it's going to be placed sideways just like that, and maybe in bigger, bulkier letters or something like that, and say that if you've recently completed this course, the requirements right here from your school, then it would be it would look something like that right there, and it's blocking the view, and tell everybody too, it's that's sort of kind of blocking the view, and you don't really want to print a document looking like that. But I'm just showing everybody here that that if we were to actually do the research right here, that if you were to use that right there, and like let's just say that if you were to actually stamp graduated onto a document, for any sorts of modifications or anything like that, but everybody else might say that well, if anything, you can go ahead and maybe create a duplicate, and I'm like, I can go ahead and try that too. I could probably duplicate the page right there. Just go ahead and duplicate the spread. Duplicate the spread right there, and then so that way you can go ahead and duplicate the spread, and so it's like 102 that So I'll go ahead and see here, right there, 1, 2, graduated, right up here. So if I were to move this around just a little bit right here, and put graduated right here on the left. So if you actually duplicate a spread right here, and then now you got 4-page documents right here. So a lot of times it's like you have like a binder right here that contains all these documents, right? And you don't really need to have all those text and writing, right? But like everybody else might say that if you were to use this right here, it's like maybe for reference or something like that. So if you would actually put that in big letters right there saying graduated, why do you think that you would want to do that necessarily? And I guess like everybody say, that's really going to be a part of your research, to where that whenever you're going to be working on any documents like that, it's going to be hard to, it's really hard to read all this stuff right here, to be quite honest with everybody. I'm like, it is really hard to read that, but the reason why I'm doing it is mainly because it's supposed to be like a stamp. Like if you're trying to stamp a document, indicating that you can go ahead and avoid that document, or you don't have to worry about that document right there. Like everybody else might say that well, really, with these PDF with all this digital technology, that there'll be what's called stamp modification. I'm like, like a secure document where that you can actually stamp it, just indicating that you don't have to worry about that page, that part of the application, since it was stamped for graduated. And so a lot of times it sure seems that way. That every time we do think about that, do the research about that, and want to know too that well, really that it's really hard to read a lot of that, but still that if you don't have to worry about that part of if you don't have to worry about this page right here, then a lot of times it's like, well, just to be able to keep this for your reference, that you can go ahead and stamp that to where say graduated. And So that part of the page right there, like everybody would say, is toward it. Yeah, talk about for special attention. So if you were to actually flip these pages right here and go from page 1 to page 5, and maybe like everybody say, if it's a little bit more easier to read on page 1 and then compared to maybe page 5 or something like that. But every time you do think about that, and when just how it was all put together, and you're 102 that everything that you talked about during that meeting, and you're warned toward it. Yeah, well, I don't think that I would, but yeah, but still but I'll go ahead and mention right here, everybody. I talk about explain and graduated, but then also explain. So I know a lot of teachers would maybe ask their students to please explain what we're looking at right here on this board here on the slide, and so please explain what you're doing and what you turned in, what you included right here, and so that is why it sure seems that way, that every time we yeah, more likely it's a cover letter most of the time, but every time we think about that and 102 that yeah, well that was not in the instructions. Yeah, that was not in the directions right there, and is that really surprising to everybody else? But still, can you please explain? And I can put that right down here so we can see it. Yeah, can you please explain what we're looking at right here? What is all this? So a lot of times it's like, yeah, so I would like to know maybe just a little bit too, to where that if you're going to be reading any documents though, that you want to know too, that not everybody can really see and understand all these page documents right here. So that's why it sure seems that way. That if they're going to have a tour like a program like InDesign tour, that if you're going to be working on anything, that they're going to ask as to where, okay, what are we looking at right here, and does that fulfill the requirements? And so a lot of times it's like every time we think about that, and you're warned toward, okay, yeah, that I remember having a meeting about this, but I'm just trying to understand here that if you were to actually use graduated as like a like everybody say was toward, okay, yeah, you got this document right here, but why do you think, if you were to actually print out these documents, and let's just say if you actually save this document as a PDF file format, then you would, you would notice that there would be what you call a lot of transparency, and like anything else that probably would not show up in the print. But at the same time, like at a CMYK especially, but every time you think about that, and you're 102, that why do you think that anybody would want to use this right here? Talk about for graduated. Why do you think that you would want to put that in big letters on a document? And for any reason at all, that if you were to actually copy that, and like if you would actually paste that onto the next document, and just say, you go ahead and, graduated, or something like that, the graduating twin, or something like that. I mean, I don't know if I would recommend anybody, to do that, really, but still, that all these texts right here, so if we're talking about multiple texts placed on a document just like that, and you're warned toward it, what exactly does that remind you of necessarily? Well, to me, that kind of reminds me, just a little bit like an overprint, to where that you've had this meeting, already about that. You've already talked about this during the meeting, and that is why, during the meeting that whenever you have a meeting about something that you're always thinking as to where that you've already talked about a lot of stuff. And that is why it sure seems that way, that just to kind of recap and refresh the memory and all that. So that is why it sure seems that way, that whenever you look at a document, that it's like it's the same thing just to get a better, clear understanding about what you were talking about. But whenever you have a meeting about something, though, it sure seems that way. That you don't want you don't want to get too confused about a lot of things that were talked about during that meeting, right? And in order to be able to move forward in the process, though, and it sure seems that way that whenever you go to those meetings most of the time, whenever you do attend those meetings, I'll go and show everybody here this right here. This right here actually shows the InDesign of all the pages right there. So that's that right there, all together 5 pages, 5-page document right there. So every time we do think about that, and I want to know too that depends, and then next Friday, and you'll go easy, and so every time you do think about that, I want to know too that talk about for graduated right here, and so it's like every time we do think about that, and want to know too is toward it really that how many readers do you think that they would really want to read up more about the story, about what you experienced and all that, but the way I think about it too, though, is like knowing about it's like, you learn things every day, but at the same time, it sure seems that way that based on from my experience about it, though, you're thinking is toward it, if you're going to be printing out any documents or looking at any documents, then why would you use the word graduated like that and say that, okay, whenever you graduated, if you graduated and you don't have to worry about the rest, those 3 pages. You just got to just concentrate on the one. But still, whenever it comes to job markets and but stuff like that. But anyway, but talk about you understand about graduated. But anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great day. I can also add, I can also add about explain right here that whenever you're going to be talking to anybody there at the company, for sure that they're going to say is that can you explain that what all this is all right here. So if I were to zoom in real closely on this document right here, if we can all see this right here, you're thinking is toward that whenever you start working on something, the first thing that you're going to say is that it depends, or special attention, or I'll have it to you next Friday, or something like that. So a lot of times it's like, do you really have to look real closely at something, and you have right here talk about what exactly are you thinking about, and speak up right here. So every time, every time you think about that, and you're always thinking as toward, okay, that everybody else is going to be asking you to speak up about something. Your teachers used to always say that, speak up about something if you find something wrong or notice something wrong about a document. But really, though, do you really have to explain to anybody about that? Like, okay, can you explain what is it that we're looking at right here? And half the time, it's like, well, really, if it doesn't go by the requirements, teacher or professor, then maybe that you don't want to hear it or whichever. But still, based on the feedback and the opinions, right? But every time, if you were to attend those meetings most of the time, information, information knowledge right here. So all I say is toward anything that you're going to be talking about, really, that really that whenever you're going to be doing your classwork, a lot of times, everybody else might say that, well, if you're not following the directions, and for sure you're not doing it right. But still, that don't we really think is toward it maybe that the source of study of psychology, toward it, if you were to actually put together, like, if you were to actually provide feedback about something, and let's just say if it's something that's interesting, especially that do you think that if anything, like everybody else says, to where that maybe that don't you think that maybe you should be more flexible about that, like everybody else might say, is toward it, if you don't listen to the suggestions come from the clients and maybe from those students or anybody else who's in that meeting, then well, what do you think the rules should be about that? And say, can you explain how you came up with that scenario? And I guess another way of how you want to call it, is a scenario. So every time I think about that, and I want to know too that that, yeah, graduated right here. Selling an agreement right here. So it's like so every time we think about this, and you want to know too that, really, can depends and graduated. Could those be put into like any sorts of words? And half the time you want to know too that whenever we look at the type of wording in English, though, you want to know too that anything that's adjective and anything that's considered to be what you call words and pronouns. And half the time you want to know too that whenever you say graduated, shouldn't that be the same thing as saying is to where that you have succeeded? You have recently been engaged. You recently gotten married or something like that. But half the time it sure seems that way that whenever you look at any source of marital status, though, but I just really think too that if you were to actually stamp graduated onto a document just like that, and you know for sure that people may say is toward, okay, I have no idea what this is all about right here, but I cannot read it. I can't read it, and I can't read that either. So every time, yeah, so it's like, so if anybody's going to be looking at a document like this, and you know for sure, if they're going to be receiving a copy like that, they're really are not going to have really any clue, what you're talking about with all this stuff right here. But still, but at the same time, that when we do look at a document, that 102, that okay, yeah, anything that you're going to be talking about during that meeting, right? But can you explain about what all this writing right here is? And I'm like, well, I can take a minute to explain to everybody here what all this is right here. I've talked about for marketing, right? So what I have right here is to where whenever you sell media such as marketing that provides the resources to those for those that need, right? And so that's what that writing is right here. So this right here would contain maybe a few paragraphs or so of writing about like something that you were talking about in that article, right? But it's like half the time it's like you look at this writing right here and you're warned toward it. You were to go ahead and include that like on the cover letter. But then if you would actually, use a document like this for anything that you're working on during that meeting, right? And you're thinking as toward, yeah, that, another reason maybe why that you would go ahead and save this information right here, but then go ahead and open it up with a program like InCopy or Distiller is mainly because of the fact that, all these documents right here, they were all put together, right? But then you want to know too that there's a way that you can tell on how many listeners, how many readers and listeners that read this, or if they decide to sign a document or modify a document or something like that. But every time we do think about that, and at 102, that, yeah, you look at all those documents and then you see down there that, yeah, test tomorrow or something like that, or go easy, and, so you got right there, yeah, that right there is supposed to be like the first page right there, but still. But every time you think about that, in 102, yeah, this page right here is a lot easier to read right here. You don't have those words in text and all that. But half the time, it's like you go down here to page 4 or 5 right here, and you see all these right here, and you're like, okay, yeah, I understand now. I understand what you're talking about now, and, so yeah, it's like, so every time we flip through those pages, though, it's supposed to kind of walk you through those steps on the tasks that need to be done for the job, right? But a lot of times it's like, yeah, you really have to be there, or you really just have to listen up closely or follow along with what all that they're talking about, because if this right here was supposed to be related to any source of meeting, though, and like everybody else might say, is toward it, would it be, even wise just to delete everything and just put, completed, graduated right there, or agreement, or something like that. So if you were to actually delete this right here in the background in 102, then what good would that do? Really, do you have permission to do that? And maybe a lot of editors might say that no, don't delete anything on that document. what we're asking you to do is like, yeah, so like everybody else might say that, whenever you delete something, that what exactly does that mean necessarily? But like everybody else might say that, if you talked about that, then all you really need to do on that document is just making sure that if everything all looks correct right there. So it's like, yeah, so it's like, so even if you do, yeah, like I tell everybody too, that even if you do maybe copy and paste graduated, and that maybe paste it all over this document right here, and like everybody else might say, that's really hard to read, and I don't know why you would want to do something like that. But still, but whenever you're going to be looking at that document right there, like everybody else might say, is that it's still recognized. Yeah, that document, that reader still recognizes that document just because of the fact that yeah, for what was corrected, and in this right here is supposed to be a duplicate copy right there. So if you were to actually stamp all these wordings right here and have it stamped all over that document right there, so that's something I guess we can all think about, is to where they even know that if all these ink prints right here all splattered all over the document right here, and it makes it harder to read. But then the page right here on the top right here is like, yeah. So it's like, so half the time you're always thinking too that yeah, with this print technology nowadays, with this digital software, that they even know that the document was damaged, just because I'm like, yeah, it was corrupted or something like that. That you can actually you still recognize that document, just because that, yeah, invisible ink or something like that. But I really don't know if there's going to maybe be a tool to where that you're still able to modify a document, even though that if the document was damaged, or if it was corrupted or something like that. But still, that whenever you look at this document right here and you see all these text and writing right here, and you're thinking as to where, yeah, that you can't really read that very well, and but still but what everybody can really read right here, that you really only need to read right here, is graduated, so you don't have to worry about that part of the application. This page right here, talking about when yeah, for graduated, and of course with marketing, and then the page right up here, I talk about what it's like to actually sell stuff, and so if you were to actually to form duplicate copies right here, talk about for speak up right here, and I can tell everybody here, maybe talk a little bit about that. Yeah, if you find something wrong in a document, and like say, yeah, you speak up. Yeah, speak up. Not everybody can hear you. Yeah, I can't hear you, man. What did you say? Like, yeah, well, I noticed not everything is perfect. Not everything is perfect, but that's not the document that we ordered from earlier. Yeah, that's not the document. It's not the same document that we requested from earlier. But still, it's like every time you do think about that, well, I know too that yeah, it's not the same document. But yeah, every time you do think about that, but still, if it's not the same document, for sure, like, yeah, speak up, what are you thinking about? And so yeah, so every time I can go ahead and maybe put that in bold right here, and see if I can do that. Yeah, speak up. So what does that usually mean, to speak up about something? Like, well, that means, yeah, put that down here. Agreement, speak up. And yeah, don't we all think that that would make more sense if you put that right down here? Speak up. If you're going to be in a meeting, and let's just say that, if there's a question that comes to your mind, speak up, and I really don't know if we can all read that and see that right there, read that and see that. But still, that when we do speak about, documents though, and having a meeting about something, and 102 that, yeah, speak up. And so if I were to actually, yeah, I can go ahead and copy, I can probably copy and paste and drag that over here to left on this other page right here. Yeah, speak up. And yeah, go ahead and bring it over here to this page here. Yeah, speak up. And yeah, why would you wanna, yeah, for any documents that you're going to be working with, really, why would you want to stamp speak up on a document? Everybody say, yeah, page two was containing the conversation, but whenever that person decided to join the conversation, that's whenever they decide to go ahead and speak up and tell them, still. But half the time, it's like, yeah, every time you do think about that, yeah, almost all the listeners and maybe the personnel, anybody who's attending that meeting, most of the time, they're going to speak up about something, maybe whenever they feel more comfortable with what you're talking about, and for sure. The basic psychology about that, by the way, would be is toward, yeah, yeah, the person speaking, of course, they'll speak up for sure if they feel more comfortable talking about something for sure. They'll go ahead and speak up, and they'll go ahead and start talking, and talking about what exactly is it that that they're thinking about, what comes to their mind. So a lot of times it's like yeah, so speak up. So it's like so every time you think about that, and at 102 that yeah, that this right here was supposed to be a document, and 102 that you go ahead and duplicate a document, but still it's like so every time you think about that in 102 that you have a meeting talking about this stuff here, but you're always thinking as toward it, you're during it the whole time during that meeting, though, that you were warned towards you have a lot more information now than what you had at the very beginning. And like everybody else might say, is toward it, yeah, we do. We have a lot more information now than what we did, from the very beginning. It seems like that's really what it was all about, is toward that we know a lot more now than what we did, from the beginning. And so everybody else might say is toward that we know, we know now, or we have a lot more information. We have a lot more information now than what we had at the very beginning. So half the time you're always 102 that whenever it comes to a scenario, right, and you're always thinking as toward it, yeah, that you're always thinking toward it, that why wasn't this information provided any sooner? And a lot of times it's like, yeah, well, it's like every time you do have a meeting about something like that, and even if it is the, State Union, or if it's any other sorts of meeting, you're always going to be wondering about that, as to where that every time you do think about that, and you're warned to where, yeah, well, if you provide good feedback, if everybody could provide feedback within reasonable timing, for sure, I'm sure that there'll be enough information to kind of go around, but still. But at the same time, it sure seems that every time we think about this, and you're 102, that special attention though, and so it's like, yeah, most of the time, when we do talk about special attention, most of the time, it seems like it's all about, it's really over the fact about getting the job done, and knowing about what all information that you do know, and anything. I'm like, yeah, so it's like whenever we do speak about jobs, though, even tell the president that the ticket moving forward, telling the president that there are some jobs that will hire you even without an application. There are some jobs out there, yeah, like everybody else might say, that those jobs are not called jobs, especially the ones that don't hire, and especially the ones that are a lot harder to get, or whichever, but still. There are some jobs out there, they might say, is to where they, yeah, there are some jobs out there that tell you that, you don't have to worry about the application. All you have to do is just go to the meeting and show up for your appointment. So like everybody else might say, is to where that's really all you gotta do, is that, yeah, that's right, that's all you have to do. Just show up for your appointment. Meet up with the manager and show up for your appointment. And that's really all you have to do. You don't have to worry about filling out that application. So a lot of times, like everybody else might say, is to where, yeah, this time seems to be a lot easier than compared to last time. Because last time, why was last time a lot more challenging than compared to this time? And everybody else might say is to where, yeah, well, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact about maybe not everybody being trained, and maybe not everybody really knew what the latest information, what information was to be made available, and so that is why it sure seems that way. That every time we think about this, and you're always thinking as to where that if you're familiar with how things are working now, and that's why it sure seems that way. That yeah, every time you think about that, going through paperwork and everything, that you want to think of maybe 3 simple words: go easy, test, and agreement. And maybe that's another reasons why that we probably think about that, is to where, yeah, now it is here, but still, that so every time you think about that, and you're warned toward it, yeah, 3 simple words right there, and so that's why it sure seems that way, that every time you do think about that. And want to know too that, yeah, that by every meeting that you have with somebody, and you're want to know too that, for how it all started, is the fact about, yeah, for whenever you first started, that was before that you were even a member. That was before that that yeah, that was before that you were even recognized, or like, yeah, but still. But at the same time, that when we do think about that, and want to know too that yeah, for how much progress that was made since then, after putting all this together right here. But anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. I know that's a lot of information right there, but at the same time, for the ticket moving forward right here, and tell everybody too that, yeah, moving forward, the ticket moving forward, and I would really like to put forward right there, and I'll go and put forward right here, ticket moving forward, and so yeah, every time I think about that in the 102, yeah, forward, ticket moving forward, and so every time you think about that, and you're 102, that yeah, it's another way of, how do you want to call it, paying your dues, right? To where you'll be able to get what you want. You'll get what you want, at some point. But still, everybody else might say that, yeah, the president might say that, for those who know, the Xbox, play the Xbox, the Xbox, or if it's the PlayStation. But still, ticket moving forward right here, and yeah, you want to go and just move that? Yeah, I can move that down here. Yeah, ticket moving forward. Go and move that over here. Ticket moving forward. So every time you think about that, and you're always thinking to her that yeah, that even though yeah, ticket moving forward, that all that hard work that you put into something in year 102, that really, what has been taken care of, what's been taken care of already. Yeah, it's already taken care of, and it's already paid for, and so that's why it's like, yeah, it's paid for already, it's already taken care of. And that is why it sure seems that way. That like everybody else might say that if really, in order for everything to be all taken care of for sure, that there will be what you call like a doc or something like that. But anyway, but hopefully I'm like talking about for ticket moving forward. I was going to say too that all the hard work that you put into something and at 102 that in the long run it's going to be I'm like so every time you think about hard work right here, hard work and so all that hard work that you do and 102 that all that hard work that you put into something and you're always working toward it really is it gradually working on its own. If it's gradually working on its own, the more hard work that you put into something and your thinking is toward it, you don't have to worry about that now, because all that hard work that you put into something, it's already taken care of. A lot of times it's like, hard work tomorrow. Yeah, if you want to put that in big bulky letters right there. I don't know, I can maybe tell everybody that, if you actually put that into a sentence right there, by the way, the hard work tomorrow, if you can use that for maybe for like a logo design or something like that, do you think that maybe it would work? Maybe for any source of goal or achievement, you use it for like maybe for a logo design or something. Hard work tomorrow. It really don't make a whole lot of sense, but really, if you were to think about that, hard work tomorrow, if you were to use it as like a for like a logo design or something like that for hard work tomorrow, and I'm sure that you'll see some progress, right? Hard work tomorrow, and hard work tomorrow. I mean, really, it would make a lot more sense maybe if you've had that same experience with working on something and maybe trying to understand something about how it all works, right? But at the same time, it's like, hard work tomorrow. But I thought I'd mention it right there. Talk about for hard work tomorrow, and but still, it's like every time you think about that and want to know that understanding about all the hard work that you put into something. But, and talk about say for it depends, right? But anyway, talking to somebody, talk about for good feedback right there. But anyway, thanks for watching everyone, and have a great day.